could have private insurance. So based on that, it goes in and looks at any payment that client might have had previous to this, and looks at what amount they got paid by MCSYS. And that number will be added. If they've been paid but not by MCSYS, it's only going to allow you to project, what the balance of the transaction is. If you have a $100 transaction, but you've been paid $25 by the client and $12 by Medicare, the projected amount isn't going to be $100. It's going to be $100 minus whatever payments you have up to that point. So it is a little bit more complex. There are other weighted amounts within the table itself, meaning we can manipulate what amount, dollar amount you'd want to see in certain situations. But right now, out of the box, that's the way this projected amount will work. So we'll go back up here to projection type. Now I'm going to take away transaction status there and go up here to projection type. If I come down to projection type, this is the way that we can project. Is it going to be projected as Medicaid, or is it going to be projected as non-Medicaid? And then if it has been paid, we'll actually specify, yeah, it's been paid, so we know particularly where this is. This is important if you're wanting to know in the future, where am I at with my non-Medicaid dollars or my Medicaid dollars, because you could have been paid for 6 months, but you've done 2 months of services that you have not been paid for yet, because you're still going through the billing process. You still have not received payment, but you kind of want to know, where am I at? This is a good way to say, yeah, I've been paid dollars by MCSYS of this amount, but I'm also projecting that I'm going to get paid this much more. So this is really where I'm at. So if you need to be doing some kind of changes to clients in their payer structures in order to get the maximum amount of non-Medicaid dollars, you should be able to do that much more proactively and months ahead of that payment cycle. And that's a real powerful thing to do. Now, within Excel, you can see these numbers are pretty, they're not formatted correctly, but you can highlight those, go up to home. These tables react they react exactly the same as any kind of Excel table. There are some limitations, but most of the time you can do any kind of data formatting that you did within regular Excel. And so now those numbers look a little bit better. You can tell that we had $1.3 million in MCSYS, Medicaid MCSYS paid up to this point, and we're projecting another $244,000 out there that is going to get paid eventually by MCSYS. Now, as the closer and the more it goes through the billing cycle, the tighter that number will be. So we'll go back and we'll look over here at HIPAA code. HIPAA code is pretty self-explanatory. That's sorting your that's going by this HIPAA code set up within your vendor software. So you have your 8004, your 80031. So you can do data analysis based on the HIPAA code itself. One of the more powerful things to do with that is actually to bring that over to the column label, so you can see it more in a top heavy type thing, but then bring in the transaction month. So now you can see monthly numbers by service code, by HIPAA code actually. So these are some things you can do, and you can see you can do these very quickly. And the drill down capability is very, very powerful here. So if you want to know specifically this S9484, what that $474 is in June, you can actually take that, highlight that number and double click on it, and what you'll see is another sheet will open up within Excel. And what you get there is then you're going to get all the information about that particular, four transactions. You can tell where it is in the billing cycle, you can tell what month it is, you can tell the staff name, the case number, the date, all different types of information. Does it have a balance? All the stuff we bring in the view, now you have the ability to find. And then there's also this transaction number. So you can go back to your vendor software and say, this is the individual transaction that I was looking for, and you can find that information. Or you can use the date and case number and service ID, and then there's the units as well, and figure out exactly what is it about that transaction that I want to view. And again, in Excel, we can just go ahead and delete that. And it's something I could hit that, double click that again, and bring it back if I wanted to. HIPAA code, primary staff, like I said before, is a computed column that we're not bringing in. Program name, projected amount, projection type, which is our 4. Service category, the ability of some vendor softwares where you can group your services together. So I'll take this away and bring in service category. Up here at the top, we can actually filter by that as well. Any of these columns you can filter by. So if I was wanting to bring that in, I could do that. So I could bring that back under filter. do service category, and I can filter, say select multiple items, and just let's say I only wanted to do a couple in my view. I can just bring in those and my amounts will change. So I'll come back and bring all back in. Over here on the right, we'll go ahead, service description. If I want to bring in what the service description is, that will be a more detailed view of that. Staff name, let me bring out service description. Staff name is the staff that actually provided the service. So I'll go up here, I have it right now as a filter. I can actually bring in maybe just one particular person. That I can bring in the staff name. Therapist group, again in the vendor software you can actually specify a group of therapists, whether it's doctors or maybe particular location. They're user defined by you. ADSBI, the nightly accumulation, will look at that. That's also very customized to agencies, so some agencies will use it, some won't. The transaction date is the original date here. This is good for a filter. This is not usually good for bringing into the actual cube or the actual pivot table itself, because they are so granular. It is by day, so you probably won't use that. Transaction month, again, that's the one we saw here at the top. We can move that around from below to label. That's very powerful for trending. And in this particular view, we're looking at the fiscal year. In the 12-month rolling, it'll look a little bit different, where it'll roll, depending on what month you're in. When you're in a fiscal year, it's going to start in July and move its way through. So if you are in the middle of January, you will actually see very little numbers all the way down to June, actually none, until you start moving this data, and that's why this accumulates on a nightly or weekly basis, depending on how you set it up. Another one that's very different than people are probably used to seeing. We'd already looked at transaction status really quickly. I can bring that in. Again, we can say billed to MixSys, but not paid, entered not billed, paid but not by MixSys, and paid by MixSys. Those are different ways to view data within what part of the billing cycle you're in. The under 8-minute services, basically that's again, MixSys does not, you do not bill MixSys for anything under 8 minutes, but because I'm bringing in a view that is looking at just billable records, it will bring in the under 8-minute services, at least for analysis. If you don't want to include those, you can say no. If you want to include the under 8-minute services, you can. If they are rolled up together, so if an under 8-minute services is rolled up to a service that is that makes it up more than 8 minutes, that will actually be included. So these are when I say limit or not limit, these are only the ones that would not bill. Some people want to see how much money or how many of these transactions do I have out there that are under 8-minute services. Am I losing revenue because I have a bunch of 7-minute services? This is a good way to take a look at that. Units is very simple.